Jalil Afridi from the Frontier Post. I'm here after 2 years because State Department hadn't renewed foreign journalist credentials.
Welcome back.
But I was regularly here since Mr. Kirby was here, and it's very good to see you. I've been hearing you online. So my first question is that just with regard to Afghanistan and interrelating it to my professional, so if State Department took 2 years for decades-old journalists to renew their credential, are you still satisfied that the State Department did a good job with the thousands of Afghans that came here? Do you still believe that their vetting process was done well? Because Peter had asked this question in the White House as well about Homeland Security publishing a report that the vetting process was not done well. And although the Homeland had denied and rejected that report, that it was not a fact, but are you guys still satisfied that the vetting process was done well? And is this administration going to take the responsibility if those who came in those 2 years do something, God forbid, in future? Will this administration take the responsibility?
Well, let me just put a finer point on one part of your question. This is a process that is ongoing. Our commitment to the people of Afghanistan does not have an expiration date attached to it. You may be referring to the 124,000 individuals whom the United States government helped to evacuate from Afghanistan during the process of the military withdrawal. That is one finite set of individuals, but our commitment to American citizens, to lawful permanent residents, and more to your question, to Afghans who have partnered with us over the course of the preceding 20 years, that commitment is ongoing. And in fact, since September 1st of 2021, now for some 15 or so months, we have continued to make good on that commitment by facilitating the departure from Afghanistan of those American citizens, those lawful permanent residents, those partners of ours over the course of that 20-year military engagement who have chosen to leave. Of course, our first priority is to Americans, to LPRs, and to their immediate family members. But thousands of Afghans have been transited out of Afghanistan under the auspices of the U.S. government since September 1st of last year, when that formal evacuation process came to an end, and that will continue to happen going forward. As part of that process for our Afghan partners, whether it is the processing of those who were welcomed here under Operation Allies Rescue, under Operation Allies Welcome, as it subsequently became known, or as part of the SIV processing. Again, to your question, there is an extensive vetting process. It is a process that involves not only this building, it involves our Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the intelligence community more broadly, pulling upon every available source of information to make sure that someone is appropriate for resettlement here in the United States. This is a process that has been honed over the course of many years now. And because of the inclusive, comprehensive nature of the vetting process, it is not always a quick process. We attempt to see it completed just as quickly as possible, but it is a thorough process in which we have confidence, and the American people should have confidence.
Just one more question. Although I do have contradiction about this, because State Department officials and Pakistani officials off the record have said that they have doubts about the vetting process. You guys, the State Department and the White House has any collaboration with each other with regard to, because as you know, Secretary Blinken and President Joe Biden are two individuals that even their opponents agree on their foreign policy strength, that this is one of their strengths. How about the media? Do you and the White House press, Ms. Kareem, do you guys have any sharing of information about the international journalists and how to promote the U.S. policy abroad, or these things are not discussed between you two?
Could you clarify your question? Do you mean?
Basically what I'm saying, does the State Department informs the White House press secretary about the foreign journalists working in Washington, D.C., and to engage them, or to at least when they come to press conferences, just to give a small example, like for example, if Matt was in Pakistan presidency for 3 months, going to press briefing and not getting an opportunity to ask a question, would that look any awkward? Like, does Ms. Kareem, do you discuss it all with them? Because I mean, I'm just coming to Pakistan, to be honest with you. The question is in last few months, the way Mr. Donald Lu has become popular in Pakistan, I mean, even no president has become that popular. So do you tell Kareem that if a Pakistani journalist is there, at least give them an opportunity to ask a question?
I understand. We have a regular discussion and dialogue with our White House counterparts. They, of course, know the indispensability of foreign journalists to our broader foreign policy mission. Of course, there are foreign journalists in this room every day. There are foreign journalists in the White House press briefing room every day, and I know how much our White House colleagues value the White House's own Foreign Correspondents Association and how valuable in turn having that association is, because our messages need to be understood and digested not only in this country but around the world. And in order to do that, I understand, I know my colleague at the White House understands as well, that we need to be able to speak to people like you, people who are disseminating these messages well beyond our national borders.
Just to follow up on Nazira's question, I'm sure you have heard former Secretary Hillary Clinton talk about Ashraf Ghani running away with stashes of money to UAE. That money belonged to the American people. Is there ever going to be something to recover that money from people like Ashraf Ghani and many others who I have personally reported on as well, and several other journalists as well, that there are officials or contractors that in these last 20 years they looted the US government and kept their money over there in UAE. Is the State Department ever going to take action about them?
I'm not in the position to speak to any specific claims, but what I can say is that the Afghan economy and the Afghan state more broadly has long been plagued by corruption. It, of course, was a challenge prior to August of last year. It, of course, remains a challenge with the Taliban now, at least in de facto control. There was a focus that the United States had with the prior Afghan government on anti-corruption. We provided a good deal of support to the prior Afghan government to help them with this challenge, to see to it that the prior Afghan government was an effective steward of the revenues that it collected from the Afghan people. Of course, those types of programs are no longer possible with the Taliban now in at least de facto control across Afghanistan. But we will continue with international partners to do what we can to make sure that what rightfully belongs to the people of Afghanistan is or remains in the hands of the people of Afghanistan.
And that one question, just like Nazira said, in Afghanistan, you see the human rights violation getting increased day by day. In Pakistan, I don't know if you're aware, since last just even 2 days, yesterday, one police station was attacked and 4 police officers were killed. Right now, there is a counter-terrorism department which is under siege right now by the Taliban, by the TTP. So do you see in coming days any over the horizon or under the horizon drones coming back to the region and targeting these terrorist groups, or situation has not gotten that worse yet?
Well, first on the ongoing situation in Pakistan, we are, of course, aware. We've been closely following reports that militants have seized control of the counterterrorism center in Banu. We offer our deepest sympathies to those injured. We urge those responsible for the attack to cease all acts of violence, to safely release those who remain hostage, and to end the seizure of the counterterrorism center. Of course, we refer you to the government of Pakistan for details on this ongoing situation. But the broader point is that the government of Pakistan is a partner when it comes to these shared challenges, including the challenge of terrorist groups inside of Afghanistan, terrorist groups along the Afghan-Pakistan border. We have partnered with our Pakistani friends to help them take on this challenge. We stand ready to assist, whether with this unfolding situation or more broadly, but this is a situation for which we'd have to refer you to Pakistani authorities.
Just last one. 2 days ago, Pakistani foreign minister has called the Indian Prime Minister butcher of Gujarat in New York. Ironically, I had asked the same question 6 years ago to Mr. Kirby when for the first time Mr. Modi was coming to the US. I had said that, Modi was not getting a US visa now. Is he going to be allowed to come to the US? All these years down the line, don't you think the strategic partnership with India has kind of influenced in some ways the human rights things which the US stands for, minority rights, like Modi has been treating the way Muslims are being treated since last few years, former Prime Minister even, Mr. Singh had tweeted about it. Same thing with Ukraine when you look at it, they're still buying large number of oil from Russia, India. But this strategic alliance seems like it has influence, or it is at least portraying the US image as it is forcing US to compromise on some of its human rights, things that the US basically stands for.
We have a global strategic partnership with India. I've just spoken to the depth of our partnership with Pakistan. These relationships stand on their own. It is not zero sum. We see the importance, the indispensability really, of maintaining valuable partnerships with both our Indian and our Pakistani friends. Each of these relationships we don't view them in relation to the other. Each of these relationships also happens to be multifaceted. So even as we deepen our global strategic partnership with India, we also have a relationship in which we can be candid and frank with one another, where we have disagreements or concerns. We voice those just as we would with our Pakistani friends as well. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Ned. There's an impression being created in Pakistan that the US basically wants Pakistan to take some action against the terrorist hideouts on the border. Is there such encouragement?
This is a threat that Pakistan itself faces, going back to what I was telling your colleague just a moment ago. Militants, terrorist groups operating in the border regions, operating inside Afghanistan have claimed far too many Pakistani lives. Of course, Pakistan has every right to defend itself. This is ultimately, in some cases, a shared threat to the region, and it's one we take very seriously, as do our Pakistani partners, of course.
But the US is not encouraging Pakistan to take such action. That's, if I'm correct on that, the US is not encouraging that Pakistan should take action.
Pakistan will do what's in its self-interest, and it will take action when it deems appropriate, based on the inherent right of self-defense.
But Pakistan has been saying the same thing for 20 years. When the US was there and more than 100,000 NATO troops were there, Pakistan had the same concerns that these terrorists across the border conduct terrorist activities and then they go back. So how will if the US couldn't do it along with the NATO forces, how can the Taliban keep an eye on such hideouts? And is it possible? Do you see something like that?
It's clear that this has been an enduring challenge. It's been an enduring challenge for the United States, for NATO, but certainly for Afghanistan's neighbors, who have often most frequently been the victims of attacks that have emanated from Afghanistan. Pakistan is a close partner, a close security partner. We work closely together to do what is appropriate to confront shared and mutual threats, as well as shared opportunities.
Thank you, Ned. Pakistan has less than $5 billion left in its foreign reserves. Is the US paying any attention to, or is planning to give maybe some sort of debt relief to the country?
So this is a challenge that we are attuned to. I know that Pakistan has been working with the IMF, with international financial institutions. We want to see Pakistan in a economically sustainable position. Those conversations, as I understand it, are ongoing. We are supportive where we can be of our Pakistani partners, but ultimately these are conversations between Pakistan and international financial institutions.
But it's critical time. Does the U.S. On government to government level, is getting any suggestions for Pakistan to take some immediate steps which could improve the economy?
These conversations with our Pakistani partners often do entail technical issues. Oftentimes, these are addressed between the Department of the Treasury and our Pakistani partners. But Pakistan's macroeconomic stability is a topic of conversation between the Department of State and our counterparts, the White House, Treasury Department, among others.
Just to follow up on Nazira's question, I'm sure you have heard former Secretary Hillary Clinton talk about Ashraf Ghani running away with stashes of money to UAE. That money belonged to the American people. Is there ever going to be something to recover that money from people like Ashraf Ghani and many others who I have personally reported on as well, and several other journalists as well, that there are officials or contractors that in these last 20 years they looted the US government and kept their money over there in UAE. Is the State Department ever going to take action about them? And that one question, just like Nazira said, in Afghanistan, you see the human rights violation getting increased day by day. In Pakistan, I don't know if you're aware, since last just even 2 days, yesterday, one police station was attacked and 4 police officers were killed. Right now, there is a counter-terrorism department which is under siege right now by the Taliban, by the TTP. So do you see in coming days any over the horizon or under the horizon drones coming back to the region and targeting these terrorist groups, or situation has not gotten that worse yet? Just last one. 2 days ago, Pakistani foreign minister has called the Indian Prime Minister butcher of Gujarat in New York. Ironically, I had asked the same question 6 years ago to Mr. Kirby when for the first time Mr. Modi was coming to the US. I had said that, Modi was not getting a US visa now. Is he going to be allowed to come to the US? All these years down the line, don't you think the strategic partnership with India has kind of influenced in some ways the human rights things which the US stands for, minority rights, like Modi has been treating the way Muslims are being treated since last few years, former Prime Minister, even Mr. Singh had tweeted about it. Same thing with Ukraine when you look at it. They're still buying large number of oil from Russia, India. But this strategic alliance it seems like it has influence, or it is at least portraying the US image as it is forcing US to compromise on some of its human rights, things that the US basically stands for. So if State Department took 2 years for decades-old journalists to renew their credential, are you still satisfied that the State Department did a good job with the 1,000 of Afghans that came here? Do you still believe that their vetting process was done well? Because Peter had asked this question in the White House as well about Homeland Security publishing a report that the vetting process was not done well. And although the Homeland had denied and rejected that report, that it was not a fact, but are you guys still satisfied that the vetting process was done well? And is this administration going to take the responsibility if those who came in those 2 years do something, God forbid, in future? Will this administration take the responsibility?
Well,
yes, Ned. Last week I had asked you about Narendra Modi and how the US has compromised on some of its values. And the BBC just released a documentary on Modi, on how he had butchered. And the report was just released. It was a government report. BBC just released it. It was made by a former secretary, in which he has even mentioned higher number of deaths, higher numbers of women raped. And it was just done right under the nose of Narendra Modi. I don't, I had never challenged the strategic interest of the US with India, but I regret the fact that since last 8 years that I've been covering the State Department, I have not seen once an official standing here at UC condemning Narendra Modi himself individually, not just as a prime minister, but individually his acts. One just on what my colleague just used the term overreacted with regard to China. Is how much truth do you think it is in if you say that the US overreacted with this President Biden being pressured from like the US media a little too much and there is not much truth into the surveillance equipment terminology there and that it was just some media people who didn't want President Biden and China to get a little bit closer, you know, they were not interested in Blinken's visit and is there any truth to that, you think? Or no, there was some surveillance equipment found. East side of these tanks, because I know Putin has been talking about if these tanks were to be given, you know, nuclear war could have started. So if we could change the subject to a little bit to the peace side of it. Is it true that Ukraine has asked China to help out in this issue and maybe bring about some peaceful resolve to this whole thing, or no? Cigar just released their statement as well yesterday, and one of the major things that they had pointed out was the corruption made in different organizations. And one of the commitment President Biden, when he was taking power, was that he was going to do accountability of this corruption. It's been a year, we do not see any accountability there. And two of the most popular individuals in this corruption, and they are named in the Cigars report as well, are President Ghani and his ambassador here in Washington, D.C., who later on became National Security, Mohib. They are both U.S. citizens, and they, according to many reports, they have outside the country millions of dollars of worth of assets. What accountability has been done in 1 year? U.S. citizens who were officials in Afghanistan, the accountability has not taken place in the last 1 year, except State Department official, Mr. Olson, was just, he went through some harsh things. But beside that, we do not see any accountability of millions of dollars of U.S. taxpayers' money that was robbed by these citizens, and they have stashed it across on the other side of the borders. Any accountability which President Biden had promised that he will be taking, no action has been taken about that.
Yes.
Thank you, Ned. There's an impression being created in Pakistan that the U.S. Basically wants Pakistan to take some action against the terrorist hideouts on the border. Is there such encouragement? Pakistan has been saying the same thing for 20 years when the US was there and more than 100,000 NATO troops were there. Pakistan had the same concerns that these terrorists across the border conduct terrorist activities and then they go back. So how will if the US couldn't do it along with the NATO forces, how can the Taliban keep an eye on such hideouts? And is it possible? Do you see something like that? Peshawar, 100 people died in a suicide blast. So terrorism is very much active and back in Pakistan. Any help from the US with an ally who was standing with America for 20 years, has lost over 75,000 of its people, and is begging the IMF where the people are fighting for bread? Any support? I know there's so much happening in the world.
No,
asking for.
Russia's we're getting one.
Pakistani Supreme Court has just announced the holding of the elections. Your comment on that? And former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been continuously winning the midterm elections. Are any grudges? Does this building have any grudges? Does the U.S. State Department has any grudges with Imran Khan if he were to come again and win the elections in Pakistan? Thank you, Nat. Pakistan has less than $5 billion left in its foreign reserves. Is the US paying any attention to or is planning to give maybe some sort of debt relief to the country? But in this critical time, does the US on government to government level, is getting any suggestions for Pakistan to take some immediate steps which could improve the economy. My question is about Dr. Afia Siddiqui, who has been languishing in the U.S. jail for the last 20 years. Last week, a political party leader and a lawyer had a chance to meet her after 20 years. This issue just came up again in Pakistani media again, and there is no doubt that the U.S. is one country which really cares about human rights, and it's without politics. Now, many journalists in Pakistan believe that this lady, because Pakistan was not pursuing the case properly, she's a PhD doctor. They believe that the government of Pakistan didn't pursue the case properly at that time. And that was one of the reasons why she got convicted by a judge and was sentenced to 80-some years in jail. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance, and it gave a very bad impression of the human rights gesture, just, PhD lady involved in terrorism. Just to know the State Department reaction, our readers and me personally, it's been in the Sudan situation, we have seen Iran and Saudi Arabia help out their citizens from that area. How is the State Department looking at that cooperation? The question is about Pakistan is not participating in the Summit of Democracy.
Yeah.
And beside that, there's a lot of turmoil in Pakistan, whether it's economic, political, judicial. Is the U.S. concerned about it at all?
We're certainly,
security politics?
we're certainly.
Thank you, great. Mr. Kirby, talking about Afghanistan, when the U.S. was withdrawing, one of the closest ally of the U.S. was Pakistan. And the president did not call either the Prime Minister of Pakistan at that time, neither the weapons that many claim that around 6 billion weapons were left, neither they moved to Pakistan to be moved out. While Pakistan, one of the strongest allies which sacrificed many lives, was not taken on board, and why their services were not required.
Taken on board for what? I'm not sure I follow you.
For removing the U.S. citizens, for removing the Afghans who were coming to the U.S.
Yeah.
So the same thing, but I want to understand it because I heard this from Mr. Kirby as well, that the U.S. wants a stable Pakistan. And the other day I heard from Karine as well when she said that we don't have a favorite candidate, and you said this as well today. But I am just personally trying to wonder if stability is really like the U.S. is appreciating it or not, because you have a prime minister who runs two of the largest cancer hospitals in the world, who takes millions of donations from the U.S. every year. And then you have another prime minister who was convicted on the Panama Papers, and journalists have been killed since last 1 year in Pakistan. Media, his colleague, my colleague who was just asking a question earlier, Jan Zaid. I mean, the U.S. has no stand on these things. Like favorite, like you have no favorite candidate. We understand that, but like the U.S. is not taking any stand on some of the atrocities which has taken place since last 1 year. One different one.
Sure.
Prime Minister Modi is coming to the U.S. next week. The same podium I had asked Mr. Kirby again when he was coming here during President Obama's days. That was President Modi's first time coming to the U.S. After being rejected U.S. visa for 20 years. Now he's coming again. This time President Biden had said in his elections days that he will raise the issue of Kashmir with them. He will raise the issue of how minorities are being treated in India, especially the Muslims, and especially how the journalists are being treated under his leadership. So my question is President or the Secretary going to raise these issues with him over here, or no, they're going to be? Question on Pakistan and one on Afghanistan. On Pakistan, Elon Musk satellite company, Starlink, is trying to get the rights for landing rights of satellite. Does the State Department is aware of that? And if you could inform us what is the State Department position on these satellite companies giving connection to like local. Question on Afghanistan, which I've been continuously raising without any agenda behind it, is I asked State Department official through email several times, but they seem to not understand my question. So I'm going to try you now. Out of the 100,000 Afghans that the U.S. has brought to the U.S. after the withdrawal, how many of them are detained. By detained, I mean how many of them, despite having the translator permission and stuff like that, how many of them are being investigated or their applications are being under review, like continuous review? First question is with regard to the women education in Afghanistan. And it's a bit personal to me as well because I'm a Pashtun as well. It's been a long time now they're not getting education, and the Biden administration and the State Department has pretty much forgotten about them. If you remember, in the early days after 9/11, there was a system called Jirga was done by the U.S. to bring a government in Afghanistan. Now, Jirga is a traditional gathering of elders from different tribes, different parts of the countries, to convince something or to decide something. Why hasn't the U.S. thought about holding a Jirga, especially with regard to women education? Things are pretty amazing in Pakistan since last year. Only one top journalist has been killed. Only one top journalist is missing. Economy is booming, and only 5,000 political prisoners are in jail. Supreme Court orders are being flouted. And now the parliament, which has an opposition leader who is going to be running from the ruling party in the next election, they have now chosen to establish military code to try civilians. Does the U.S. have no friendship or guidance that they can give to the Pakistani regime with regard to these things? Thank you, Mr. Patel. Just a couple of related questions. One of them is that Pakistan just recently purchased its first oil from Russia. Your reaction to that? And second, now when we see that this whole war thing is not producing any good results, don't you think the U.S. should also adopt a different strategy?
A different strategy?
The situation in Pakistan has gotten worse from the last time that we spoke. I'm just, last time you said that the U.S. does want to see a stable Pakistan. Of course, things are getting from bad to worse. Anything update about that? And second question.
When you say bad to worse, what are you referring to exactly?
7,000 political party workers have been arrested. Journalists are missing. This is all happening. Supreme Court, there was yesterday a protest in front of the Supreme Court, so... Very nice to see you. So now when the U.S. has accepted the cipher reality, does the State Department agree that now basically the fabric of democracy is shattered in Pakistan or not? Just the increase in terrorism in the region.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know about Benazir Bhutto being assassinated. I'm sure you know about a guy named Mangal Bagh from Pakistan who was shot dead by a U.S. drone in Afghanistan. Is the U.S. at all concerned about the safety and security of Imran Khan being assassinated in jail? Because has the U.S. shown any concerns at all? CENTCOM Chief General Michael Kurilla just had a meeting with Pakistani Army Chief, and the press release says that the U.S. recognized continued efforts and stability in the region. So I just have three questions, small one related to this. Was the trip planned or did it just happen? Second is that Pakistan is not getting any, has Pakistan gotten any payments since Afghan withdrawal for any defense-related cooperation? And lastly, did the CENTCOM chief go to smoothen up things with regard to Mr. Donald Lu? The Assistant Secretary of State, Ms. Elizabeth Horst, stated that the whole cipher thing with Pakistan is fake and her boss, Donald Lu, is innocent. And today, the Interior Minister of Pakistan says that the secretary of Imran Khan, who was gone missing for a month, has now stated in front of the police that Imran Khan basically told him that this whole cipher thing, let's make up this thing and, try to pressurize the military. So there is a lot of similarities between the Deputy Assistant Secretary and the Interior Minister. So the cipher was fake, basically?
I don't...
Now, in one country where the U.S. was for 20 years, one of the leader there under the U.S. control, Rashid Dostum, about whom just 3 days ago Rolling Stone did an interview of him, and there's a paragraph that just simply says, he became kingmaker under the US-backed government, mobilizing region of Uzbek supporters, and notably the massacre of hundreds of Taliban, etc., etc. 20 years ago, State Department had declared him the largest heroin dealer in the world. And of course, State Department means the DEA head told her, right? So he's the top. Then he was defense minister under the US. Now, right now, Pakistan, even we have a minister that was arrested last year, a federal minister, on heroin charges. So do you see something like wrong what I'm trying to point out here? And because of this, back till today, till right now, every country has citizens who are dying, and this heroin has been coming for 20 years. Thank you, Matt. My first question is about Pakistan. Just had its Corps Commanders Conference held today, in which they urged Afghanistan to take care of the terrorist sanctuaries there, which are coming and doing activities in Pakistan. And this is, in 1 week, this is the second time that Pakistan military has openly told Afghanistan to take some action. Otherwise, they are going to take some action against them. Your comments about that? So this journalist, who happens to be a U.S. citizen as well, and he's a top journalist in Pakistan, and he was arrested and released, I'm sure because of your pressure. He said that Matt stands there at the State Department and he talks about Niger, and him and State Department and the Biden administration is ignoring a guy like Imran Khan, who is languishing in poor conditions in jail. So no human rights, no interference, no talk about interference in internal matters when it comes to Imran Khan's government. But with Niger, so much talk is given. So your reaction to that? Since 20 years, when the U.S. has been was in Afghanistan, how much responsibility till today do you think the U.S. or the State Department takes in the number of deaths caused by the heroin trade from Afghanistan, which is the largest producer of heroin in the world? Every country, every nation has thousands of people die every year.
I think
I hope you are aware that now Imran Khan, the reason why he's in jail is because of the case related to the cipher, so to the State Department. Has Congress asked the State Department to do any investigation or anything with regard to this whole cipher scenario, or no, there is nothing?
So
I had my first video log with this journalist from London, Adil Raja, and he raised the question about Pakistani Americans having their visas to their original motherland country being rejected, and has the State Department been approached by the State Department is aware of this thing, or has anybody approached the State Department with regard? My first question is about this transnational murder that has happened in Canada. We have heard several statements from Mr. Kirby, from the Secretary, but from the same podium when Mr. Kirby was here, I did ask him when Prime Minister Modi was selected PM for the first time, till now when this incident had happened. And I've continuously raised this issue that it's not about India, it's about his leadership and the kind of things that has developed, which has led to transnational murder. And the U.S. has played a vital role in providing intelligence. If you can just give us some further details, any updates, any new developments that you can share with us? After this whole thing, now today you can say that in 1 year today, the economy of Pakistan is, basically Afghanistan economy is 4 times stronger. What does the State Department say to that? In Pakistan, Mr. Bloom visited the chief election office. I was just wondering, how does the State Department or the diplomats have anything to do with going and meeting the chief election office of any country? Kirby, I had asked you about Pakistan providing weapons to Ukraine, and you said to ask Pakistani official.
And what did they tell you?
And the U.S. news media outlet published a story that Pakistan was supplying critical weapons in Ukraine war and was getting huge funds from the U.S. I'm just wondering, there's so much emphasis on Ukraine war, but you're not highlighting one of your allies just right next door who's helping in a war. And just combined with that, there was a huge protest, one of the biggest one against President Biden, just right outside here by the Pakistani community. The State Department was denying that Imran Khan was not removed under the U.S. But again, the U.S. media presented documents that he was removed after President Biden's disliking for him or something. So why is this whole confusion going on since last 1 year? A week or 10 days ago, there was a big rally outside the White House by Pakistani Americans. It was probably one of the biggest ones since President Biden has taken his office. Is the State Department aware about the Pakistani American feelings, at least what President Biden has chosen to do in Pakistan?
Relationship. Jaleel, if you want to close us out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patel. This question I want to dedicate it to a fellow journalist, a Pashtun journalist who started an English newspaper from Peshawar 40 years ago when the university didn't even have a journalism department, Mr. Rahmat Shafridi. The Pashtuns who both in Pakistan and Afghanistan are about 50 million people. Since Cold War, then the Taliban ruled, then 9/11. It is one ethnicity that has suffered the most, whether it's their culture, language, moving within the country. State Department takes many initiatives, studies, whether it's reports, and can the Secretary be kind enough to study how the Pashtuns' ethnicity has suffered since last 40 years as part of their culture and everything?
No.
Pakistan's envoy at the UN, Mr. Munir Akram, said that this whole Israel-Palestine issue did not start since October 7th. It has been there since last 50 years. Many allies of the US are asking for ceasefire, and at the United Nations, 120 countries asked for the ceasefire. Don't you think ceasefire is a good way to at least move forward at the current situation? Thank you very much, Greg. There is no doubt that the US is known for human rights values around the world. Don't you think the US has delayed this time as far as human rights are concerned, what is happening in Palestine since day one? The rallies that happen in some of those countries, which are the allies of the United States, some of these rallies were in very huge numbers. Don't you think President Biden needs to play a role towards peace instead of saying that he could handle 2 wars at a time? Does that give a good impression to fight 2 wars at a time instead of working towards peaceful things?
From the beginning.
Former Prime Minister, a known corrupt politician as well, Nawaz Sharif, has come back to Pakistan. He has been convicted by Supreme Court, a big staunch opponent of Imran Khan. So does the State Department welcome Mr. Nawaz Sharif's back to Pakistan politics? Anything to say about... Former Prime Minister of Pakistan appeared in the court after many months. For the first time, he interacted with the media as well. And in his court hearing, he said that during his trial, he's going to summon the U.S. Official to testify as well with regard to his cipher. Will the U.S. be willing to send an official there or no? Last week, 21 Pakistani soldiers were killed by the Taliban. The weapons they were using were the American weapons which President Biden's left in Afghanistan worth billions of dollars. And I raised this question here before as well. What's the State Department reaction to that, an ally getting killed by their weapon? That's my first question, if you have it. Right now, the trend from Afghanistan, which for the last 8 years, again, heroin is something that I continuously to raise questions about since last many years. Now the trend is that they believe that heroin is bad, but opium is okay. So the opium is going to China, and from China, it's coming to the U.S. This is the new trend. While the U.S. was in Afghanistan, it did not do much, in my opinion, about stopping that trade. And that trade continues to happen, and that opium gets to turn into heroin, and it lands on the street of the United States the most. What more reactions, what more actions is the U.S. going to do about it? Put the questions together. One, last week, 21 Pakistani soldiers were killed by the weapons that were left in Afghanistan. Were those weapons left there, or was that a mistake, or was it left intentionally? And second, Pakistan Army Chief is here. He met several officials. Any expectations for Pakistan? I would like to dedicate national security questions. I would like to dedicate to a fellow journalist who just passed away in Pakistan. He started an English newspaper 40 years ago when the city did not have even a journalism department, and he was my father. This question, and I hope you like this question, because he sent me to a Christian school here in high school and university. So then going back to Pakistan, I met many religious fanatics over there who had no idea about Christianity. Then when I came here, I saw many Christians being fanatics as well. And then I hear you talking about anti-Semitism and Muslim clerics being killed, and these things growing in these recent days especially. So my humble suggestion as a journalist is that as a national security advisor, don't you think it's time you create something where you can bring harmony to tell these people that look, Isis and Moses and Abraham, it's the same people that are in Islam as well. So as a student and as a journalist, I feel like from national security point of view, America right now needs one place from national security where you can tell that, listen, these were the same guys, just with different names. So this is one of my national security thing that I feel like as an international journalist, I should bring this to your notice. Thank you. Lots of stuff has been heard about Iran and their activities. Is the U.S. at all happy that Pakistan took the action to at least teach them? Because after a long time, somebody has taken step to go inside Iran, or with regard to girls' education in Afghanistan, the U.S. has since the beginning of the Taliban in the 90s, girls' education was one of the reasons why media outlets like me and the U.S. administration here, from this podium, I mean, you took it very light that you think that building relationship with Taliban without girls' education is a small thing, basically? Is that what you're giving hint here? I mean, former U.S. Ambassador, Mr. Ryan Crocker, who I believe served with both the Republicans and Democrats, a very well-respected diplomat. Yesterday, while speaking to Voice of America, he said that the Biden administration policy towards Afghanistan is not good, and he said not much importance has been given to the country, plus the education part has been neglected by the government. In the backdrop of all this, I want to ask you, now when the PTI government is in a province which is right next to Afghanistan, is my assessment correct that in coming days we are going to see Taliban further increasing as far as their strength is concerned, or no? There are quite a few citizens, U.S. citizens right now on social media who criticize the Pakistan serving military generals, army chiefs. They curse at them. I try to get a reaction from Global Engagement Center. What do you as a State Department official, is it fair that the social media influencers just curse around at serving military? Does that not affect the government relationship with each other? Weeks ago, I had asked about my assessment of the Taliban getting stronger, and my colleague just mentioned them about their public hanging. You did not agree with my assessment, but the State Department in their letter to the Cigar stated that the Taliban resurgence is going on. Can you now at least officially accept that under President Biden, the Taliban are becoming more stronger at least? You just called my colleague that Maryam Nawaz Sharif was a milestone, becoming the first female chief minister. Pakistan
Of Punjab.
Of Punjab, yeah. We have had a prime minister female, Benazir Bhutto, if you remember.
I do. That
she
does
was
not.
a milestone too.
I do. She absolutely was. It no way changes.
But you know,
this
Maryam
accomplishment.
Nawaz Sharif was caught in the Supreme Court of
do you have a
Pakistan.
question?
No, but are you aware that Maryam Nawaz was caught in the Supreme Court by presenting a fake Calibri font? Thank you very much.
Really? Then I'll come to you, Leo. Sorry.
A few weeks ago, in Adiala jail, where Imran Khan is kept, 2 inmates in jail were killed. Has Ambassador Bloom shared any concerns about Imran Khan's assassination or any security concerns with the State Department, or no? Thank you very much, Mr. Patel, and happy Ramadan to you. Just 2 questions. When you were commenting about the strikes between Pakistan and Afghanistan, I didn't feel like you sounded like Pakistan was an ally. It seems like you were treating both the countries in a very balanced manner, telling Pakistan to restrain. So do you not believe that the Afghanistan land is being used by the TTP terrorists against Pakistan? A few weeks ago, in Adiala jail, where Imran Khan is kept, 2 inmates in jail were killed. Has Ambassador Bloom shared any concerns about Imran Khan's assassination or any security concerns with the State Department, or no? One question is about these 2 innocent kids that just got some relief from Pakistani courts today, and the public of Pakistan believes that this administration has a big role in it. These two kids had no money to pay their tuition fee when they were 16, 18 years old, and then just a couple of years later, then they had almost 500 million rupees. They were the children of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. They just got finally acquitted today in the corruption case that was registered against them after Panama Papers. Does the U.S. not feel bad that such corrupt people are back to Pakistan to rule again? And at the same time, Ambassador Bloom is meeting the Pakistani finance minister about the economic situation of Pakistan. These are two very contradictory things happening in Pakistan. Today there is a hearing in Congress on Afghanistan. As you know, Pakistan and Afghanistan had a tussle yesterday, and I have been
Which I
raising
spoke to.
and I have been raising this issue of Taliban expansionism with Matt quite a bit. That today the chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is the next door province to Afghanistan, just got non-bailable arrest warrants for the raids that happened on some military installations. Do you think such situation is still not, this current administration is not seeing this, what is happening in Pakistan is giving a room to the Taliban expansionism in the region? Last week, Assistant Secretary Donald Lu had stated that the U.S. is not in the favor of Pakistan starting work on the pipeline with Iran. Now Pakistan is consulting some law firms to see if the U.S. can give a waiver. Is there a chance for a waiver or no?
So
and today, 5 Chinese who were working in Pakistan were hit by a suicide car bomb. 5 of them have perished. Do you also have the same feeling with regard to Pakistan doing business with China as well, especially with regard to the CPEC, or not? My second question is, drones have been reported flying in different parts of Afghanistan. Anything you can share that at least good news about one of the U.S. detainee in Afghanistan, Mr. Ryan Conway? I spoke to the senior Taliban official. They said that he's in good health and he speaks to his family. Another detainee before him was Joshua Boyce, who also contacted me after he was released from the Taliban. I requested the Taliban that these detainees should be released immediately without any conditions in the holy month of Ramadan. They said, we will definitely do it if you give us commitment that the U.S. will release our detainees. And I am not a media group so big as Al Jazeera. I'm just a small-time niche media group. Is there anything I can convey that like these detainees should be given back to each other, or it's too much out of my... A few days ago, U.S. officials from Islamabad embassy went to meet this gentleman named Zahir Jafar, who was convicted on murdering his wife. He's a U.S. citizen. He's on a death row now. The U.S. official went to Adiala jail to meet him. Just a few blocks down, there was Imran Khan in jail as well. Thousands of Pakistani Americans have asked to go and meet him as well. Why is the U.S. not going to meet the guy in jail? Ex-Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, who was Prime Minister from this ruling party, where Shehbaz Sharif is Prime Minister, he said himself just last week that this current regime has stolen the mandate. Basically, Shehbaz Sharif should not be a Prime Minister of Pakistan. Do you agree? So with regard to Iran, please correct me if I'm wrong, that this administration has basically made Iran more stronger in these past few years, till now this threat thing that has started. But can you confirm whether Pakistan and Iran, you have information that Iran is supporting the ISIS in Pakistan right now, these recent terrorist activities? Do you have any information that it's the Irani regime that is doing this or no? Two questions. One question is that the Saudi foreign minister is in Pakistan right now. What is something from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia you would expect to do to improve the situation in the Middle East, and whether both these countries accepting Israel will play any constructive role if their only demand of Palestine, which the Biden administration also supports if that is done. Again, very well-known journalist for Pakistan, Hamid Mir, one of the top guys. I'm just quoting his words that Pakistan right now has more suffocation than what it was like during General Zia days, General Musharraf days, and 6 judges have resigned of the country. And he said, what if journalists starts giving resignation? Will that be enough to convince Matt that things in Pakistan are not good? Because I've given you examples of former prime ministers, former congressmen from Pakistan.
So,
As my friend mentioned, the Iranian president is coming to Pakistan. Yesterday, a former Pakistan intelligence, very popular officer, Major Amir, on a TV interview stated that in the 80s, they had reported that Israel was going to attack Pakistan, nuclear weapons. Finance minister is here, as he mentioned. Imran Khan is in jail because when the Ukraine war started, the day he was there in Ukraine. In all this scenario, what's your and the finance minister is asking for money here. Do you see Pakistan with any independent policy, or do you have any suggestions for them what kind of route they should take? So yesterday, Pakistan's largest political party, the PTI, one of its parliamentarians said that Pakistan has given bases to the US. I've been a journalist 25 years. I do not know whether they have. At the same time, we have this river in Pakistan, which is called the Justice Cleansing River, where people go in, they get corrupt, and then when they come out, they get cleansed. Former Prime Minister, who was convicted for corruption charges, yesterday got cleansed in that river. So now he's a clean guy. I'm just trying to understand that a little senior journalist is confused about the whole situation in the region where you have corrupt rulers coming to power, finance minister begging for financial institutes help. Do you see these sort of leaders and state institutions fighting with each other, by the way? Just last week this happened. So are you satisfied that in such leadership will make the kind of decisions which are in the interest of the US, who are corrupt leaders, basically?
Our partner.
On Monday, Secretary gave detail about the human rights report. And you said you do not have double standards. Since last year and a half, you do not see 1 million Pakistani moving out of the country, journalists being put in jail, women in jail, political workers in jail.
Is there a question here?
So Pakistan was not part of the human rights violation in the yearly report. Do you guys not see any violation happening there since last 1 year?
I am sure.
Rumors, a Pakistani senator has said that there was a drone attack in Pakistan. Can you confirm if the US has conducted a drone attack in Pakistan? Since 2001, when the US went to Afghanistan, from the first veteran who gave his life for this country to the last ones at Kabul airport at the attack, the 11 servicemen who died, I have published it myself, the news stories on front page. And it's an honor for every veteran to give his life for his country. But the last day incident at the airport where the 11 servicemen lost their life, I believe that the US military should have lodged an investigation into Ashraf Ghani and Hamdullah Mohib for having contacts with Taliban. And this question I've been wanting to ask the Pentagon for a long time, that a journalist from that region for 25 years, having hung out with the US soldiers in Kabul, in their restaurants, and reporting for so long, would you support any investigation like this or no? My first question is about this lady, Dr. Afia Siddiqui. She has been in the US prison for the last 15 years. She was accused of killing US soldiers in Afghanistan, but no US soldier was killed. A US lawyer, British-American lawyer, Clive Stafford Smith, went to Afghanistan just last week to provide some more evidence that she had no role or she's innocent. The lady is half dead. I've been raising voice for her release. Can the secretary look into this lady's issue? And because I feel like this whole bureaucratic issue is hurdling her release. Pakistan and the US recently had a security talks, And the handout they released was, the last two words were global security and fight against ISIS. On this podium, when General McKenzie was here, I had asked him 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that ISIS fighters were coming to Pakistan, to Afghanistan and that whole bordering region. Do you see a new level of global terrorism again rising from that region in the shape of ISIS now? Matt Miller had called milestone to this Chief Minister of Punjab. She just introduced these laws which are condemned by the International Federation of Journalists and almost every single media union in Pakistan. Do you condemn that, or do you want to take maybe that milestone statement back from one? Is last 2 years I have been raising this not because I have some personal interest, Pakistan's issue, and I compare it with Afghanistan. So when the US withdrew from Afghanistan, the currency in Afghanistan was 70, now it's 77. Pakistan rupee was 125, now it's 270. Last week, Dubai leaks happened where $12 billion of Pakistani businessmen, they send it to Dubai to purchase property, where at the same time, Pakistan is begging for 1 billion, 12 billion. And you have a prime minister who is openly insulting serving chief justices.
Is there a question here?
Yes. Are you at all worried about Pakistan? Like these facts that I'm presenting you, these are facts, like not Imran Khan related.
So,
the Pakistan military 83rd Corps Commanders Conference met just a couple of days ago, and they came up with this term called digital terrorism, where they think that official public in the US and Canada and UK mostly, through digital platforms, they are spreading terrorism and creating anarchy sort of situation. Do you have any comments about that? His third conference is going, and again, this issue is, I raise it a lot because I'm just living right next to it. You know, there's a common saying, you educate a man, you educate a family, you educate a woman, you educate a whole village. Mm-hmm. In my backyard, another terrorists are going to be raised in coming years, right? Because when their moms are not educated, and you guys are still cooperating with the Taliban. Like for me to even ask this question is of so much risk.
Jalil, what's your question? And I hope
so 27 members so far, Muslim members, have been winning in the elections in India. You really think that India is becoming secular? Because when President Biden was running for elections, one of the issues was that Prime Minister Modi is turning India into a Hindu state, where there are more than 300 Muslims. 27 seats they are so far winning. Modi is winning the election, but you have to admit that under President Biden, a leader is coming who is turning a country into one religion, a Hindu state, basically, right? Would you agree with that?
So, U.S. government believes. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Matt. In Pakistan, they're discussing this military operation again in the tribal areas, which is again my hometown. My colleague was talking about the man getting burned. That is also my hometown. That's where my major readership is. 120 kids were killed by Taliban. That is again my readership, my hometown. So my journalism has been filled with these things, and that is why sometimes I get a little crazy asking you questions to you and Vedant, and I apologize for that sometimes. This recent incident also happened in Pakistan. Now the government is again thinking about doing a military operation, which has not produced any results since last 25 years that at least I have been reporting for that region. General Patrick told me that yes, Pakistan and US has military and ISIS is a threat over there. Can you just explain to me what this administration has done since this Taliban regime in Afghanistan and its effect on my area particularly? So, what have you done from the expansionism? Because I believe you guys have supported, this administration has helped the Taliban expand and the mentality and the whole thing.
I knew this was going to be about cricket again.
Cricket, Pakistan lost pretty badly, right? But the cricket chairman is the guy who is in charge of this whole terrorism thing. He's the interior minister of the country. Now, my question is, the serious note is, while so many serious things are happening there, how can a guy be a cricket chairman or an interior minister? He's basically the interior minister is who takes care of he's interior minister, he's cricket chairman, he's a journalist, he owns a media house. Like, do you not tell the Pakistan, like, come on, get serious on this thing, whether it's gonna get out of your hands?
I don't.
Two on Pakistan, one on Afghanistan. Pakistani parliament, the vice prime minister said that the U.S. Did unsolicited interference when 368 congressmen favored and 7 opposed that the elections were fair. Do you condemn such statement by him? That,
Are you well?
the United Nations Arbitrary Committee for Detention just today said that Imran Khan detention is illegal and fake. And this is one issue that for last 1 year has brought,
Oh, I'm aware.
So, so you don't, from here standing, you don't condemn that election frauds, and you don't condemn Imran Khan detention while the UN is doing it, and your ambassador still has not visited who the congressman. So, like, where is the State Department standing on so many? It's very nice to hear State Department talk about the political violence. Last week in Pakistan, similar comment you had made was taken out of perspective a little bit because President Trump has been shot as well, and Imran Khan was shot as well. But over there, the reaction was not the way it is in the U.S. So my first question is that Supreme Court of Pakistan, most of the judges favored Imran Khan. The guy was shot. Political violence in the U.S., all 1,000 people, 600 pleaded guilty, 400 were charged, punishment was given. Foreign minister is charged today in the similar violence that happened in Pakistan a year or 2 years, more than a year after the political violence happened over there, and he's charged today. The political party is being banned of Imran Khan. Today, the government has decided that. Your entire Congress has decided to rule in that favor. And I have been asking you these things for a year and a half, these same questions. But over there, you are not making the comments that you make here for democracy, political. Why is that?
So I guess I'm missing what the actual question was
So the question
here.
is that with an ally like Pakistan, why do you not have the same feelings of either political violence or democracy or the rule of law?
So I think
In Pakistan, there was a funeral procession of an Afghan poet. He was killed in Islamabad. In Pakistan, there's 1 million Afghans. I've always spoken in the favor of Afghans. But last week what I saw, and there are 50,000 Afghans which the US wants to pull out as well. There was a funeral procession from Islamabad to his native village in Waziristan. And the entire way, thousands of Afghans were holding Afghanistan flags, chanting against the serving military, political, every leadership you can imagine. And then people from Voice of America, staff members of Voice of America were spreading that on the social media. So 2 related questions. Would you be in the favor of Pakistan taking some stern actions against those Afghans, whether it's deportation or, and if you would be interested in moving these 50,000 Afghans with the US wants from Pakistan? And lastly, Voice of America is a state-run entity. I do not understand how they take interest in local politics.
so. I'll.
My colleague just asked you about the 101 million you have announced, requested the Congress for Pakistan for democracy. But at the same time, Congressman Brad Sherman has tweeted and mentioned about his meeting with Undersecretary Donald Lu once again to go ahead to tell the ambassador in Pakistan to go and meet Imran Khan. 101 million democracy funds, but the biggest leader in the country is languishing in jail for 1 year, and the U.S. ambassador is not meeting him, despite the Congress telling him. How do you see this? First time now, a girls' school is blown up in North Waziristan, the tribal areas that I belong to as well. So I have mentioned to you that Talibanism is expanding in that region, and I know the president, this administration has been under tremendous work since Ukraine war, now Gaza. But is there any serious concentration being paid to this whole terrorism spread? This is the same time, by the way, when Malala was shot, and so that whole thing about girls' education has now passed from Afghanistan and has jumped into Pakistan as well. President Trump in his speech had mentioned 2 things which I have been raising with you multiple times. and in Pentagon as well, 14 U.S. soldiers who died at the last day. And I asked for inquiry at the Pentagon. My issue was that the U.S. was already withdrawing. There was no ambassador of State Department at that time in Afghanistan. The second thing I've been raising with you and Mr. Kirby is the weapons left there. Mr. Trump mentioned it as well. Now, the other thing is Reuters mentioned, again, this issue I've mentioned with you, that the U.S. funds to Afghanistan may have landed into the wrong hands as well. All these three issues, I want to give you again an opportunity to at least give your opinion or thoughts about it in a more... In Pakistan, several journalists have now started using this term emergency, which is basically a sweet word for martial law in the country. Has it passed your ears that these discussions are going on in Pakistan, and your thoughts on that?
It is.
50,000 Afghans in Pakistan are waiting to be brought to the U.S. $20 million, according to my banking information, is every month is spent on them by the State Department. Your comment on that, whether it's a good use of the taxpayers' amount, and also whether you are aware that these individuals that are there, they're involved in some anti-state activities in Pakistan. Like Congresswoman Nancy Mace has introduced a bill where she has asked that the Taliban regime in Afghanistan be designated as terrorist organization. I don't know if you're aware or not, but TTP on Pakistan side under the U.S. Justice Department is a terrorist organization, but Taliban over there are not. So she has passed this bill. Do you agree or do you support such a bill or no?
I'm fair.
Second one is this journalist was killed, and I had asked about him a couple of times as well. Yesterday, the Kenyan court where he went, Pakistani journalist went to Kenya and got killed over there. My father served the longest term in jail of 9.5 years as well. So I do like to think at least about my journalist colleagues. Pakistan judiciary, do you think is, or any just like general opinion, it's not as bad as Kenya. The Kenyan government has given him, the poor journalist, justice, but in Pakistan the guy has not. Can you at least put a word to Pakistani judiciary or the politicians to at least not play with the lives of journalists?
You know,
One on Pakistan, one on Afghanistan. The other day I saw a leg of a human being torn apart with whom I had a dinner here in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago. He was a senator of Pakistan, and he was killed in IED blast in the tribal areas where I'm from. Today, a captain was killed over there. You and Vedant both believe that because of the last couple of years, because of Imran Khan, I might have asked a lot of questions about him. But I also asked a question that whatever these decisions have led to is now there is a terrorist war over there where the U.S. military agrees on it, the Pakistani military agrees on it, but because of Imran Khan, the situation has become so confusing in the KP region that it has become very difficult for the government to take decision whether they should do this operation or not. Have you given any guidance or any support to Pakistan to go ahead with this operation that they're planning to take or no? Last week, a couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to listen to one of the three amazing diplomats, Ambassador Munter, Ambassador Hale, and Ambassador Peterson. And Peterson, they all served in Pakistan as ambassadors. One of them said that it's great that Pakistan is off the back so we don't have to pay billions of dollars every year. Ambassador Ann Peterson said that the fifth largest country in the world should not be let down and should not be the way it is basically right now. Just give me a little bit of the Indo-Pacific strategy. Where is Pakistan fitting in this whole situation right now? Because from what I see, Pakistan seems to be going down in almost every aspect that I can think of.
So,
Taliban senior official for the first time did an interview with a Pakistani journalist. The journalist was a former government senior employee, retired, became a YouTuber, and did an interview. In that interview, most of the things were completely lied. Like, for example, the Taliban spokesperson said that there are 90,000 female teachers in Afghanistan. 90,000. Whereas the fact is that 90,000 female teachers are sitting at home getting salary from the government. Now, Vedant last week told me that the U.S. is not supporting Taliban, and 800 million has been given by U.S. aid, 300 million has been given by the State Department in different forms, okay? But what I'm saying is women without education and still $1 billion receiving and lying on international media that there are 90,000 women teachers, where absolutely girls are still without.
So get to the question.
Yes, sir.
If you
Your
don't mind.
thoughts about this whole girls' education and U.S. support and the United Nations Arbitrary Committee for Detention just today said that Imran Khan detention is illegal and fake, and this is one issue that for last 1 year has brought,
Oh, I'm aware.
So, so you don't, from here standing, you don't condemn that election frauds, and you don't condemn Imran Khan detention while the UN is doing it, and your ambassador still has not visited, who the congressman. So, like, where is the State Department standing on so many? 50,000 Afghans in in Pakistan are waiting to be brought to the U.S. $20 million, according to my banking information, is every month is spent on them by the State Department. Your comment on that, whether it's a good use of the taxpayers' amount, and also whether you are aware that these individuals that are there, they're involved in some anti-state activities in Pakistan. Did the U.S. launch any protest with the French government over the Olympics, starting when they did the whole insult of Jesus?
Sorry, did the United States do what?
Lodge any protest with France over the insult of Jesus, what they did during the starting of Olympics? Many Christians and Muslims, because Jesus is our Muslim prophet as well. Any condemnation?
I'm certain not.
So please. Today, 93 member of parliaments, the election commission has moved them to Imran Khan's party, the PTI. The election rigging and all the things have been mentioned to you several times. Are you happy to hear that now justice has been served and the political party has got 93 members back?
So look.
Last week, your colleagues at the State Department, I asked them whether the Taliban regime in Afghanistan are a terrorist organization or not. And they said that they are pretty sure that they are a terrorist organization. Is that the kind of statement they should be giving after you spending 20 years there, losing 2,500 soldiers, which in my journalism, I know that they are not declared as a terrorist organization by U.S. Justice Department. The TTP is. And General Patrick here standing also said that TTP and ISIS are serious threats, and U.S. is keeping. So what do you feel as a military spokesperson about the State Department officials with such a casual attitude about Taliban? One last question. Jerusalem Post yesterday reported that Pakistan might give Shaheen 3 cruise ballistic missile to Iran in case of intense, if something more crazy happens between Iran and Israel. Is Pentagon taking this serious? I mean, because there is obviously conflict. Pakistan Foreign Office issued a statement once, they put the name of Israel there. Few hours later, they removed the name of Israel there. The Senate passed a resolution condemning Israel. And now Jerusalem Post has reported this. Is the U.S. at all concerned that maybe if some different regime like Imran Khan comes, who is obviously criticizing Israel from sitting in jail, what is Pentagon? Several senior Pakistani military officials has been arrested in the last couple of days, including a spy master, the general, and they were arrested on corruption charges. Senior politicians, Javed Hashmi, and Georgetown graduates, again a senior politician, Mushahid Hussain, they all complain from the U.S. that the U.S. only contacts the Pakistani military more directly instead of the people-to-people relationship instead of the diplomatic. Do you guys ever feel that? Have anybody ever told you that the people of Pakistan, who many of them support democracy as well, but when their senior politicians say that the U.S. military keeps more focus on the Pakistani military than the diplomatic relation. Is that anything of concern to you or not? Sabrina, Mr. James Bond Stockdale was a USPAW in Vietnam for a long time, and he was honored Medal of Honor as well. He was my teacher at age 15, and then since 25 years, I've been a journalist from Afghanistan, Pakistan, that border region. I'm the only English newspaper there. Can you explain to your State Department colleague that journalists who have worked in these terrorist zone areas and who were the first media providers to the U.S. bases over there, they at least treat them with respect? Both Vedant and Matt, since last 1 year, because of some policy difference, they treat me with so much respect. And this podium, you guys have treated me with so much respect. So is it possible that you at least tell them that journalists who are from the war zone areas, they act, their attitude, their everything is a little different than these diplomatic trained journalists, you know what I mean? And my second question was about, and I asked you this last month as well, about the 13 soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan at the point of withdrawal. According to my journalism experience, I had suggested that another inquiry should be done, but that's again your department's decision on it. But President Trump, former President Trump, went to honor those 13 soldiers at the Arlington Cemetery. None of the current administration I saw that paid such a visit. Does that upset the Pentagon at all about the current administration? And yesterday, the Taliban were celebrating their 3 years anniversary of their takeover in Afghanistan. And they were flying US-made helicopters. They were driving US vehicles, the military vehicles. I had emailed this office, Pentagon, right before the US withdrawal as well, that what's going to happen. So at least, can the US now at least disable these helicopters, these big things, or no, they have not thought about it?
The first question is this very senior parliamentarian whose father was also chief minister, Mr. Akhtar Mengal, resigned from the Pakistan parliament yesterday, citing that this country is not being run on democratic rules and norms, and he's worried about the future of the country. Do you have anything about him?
In 2018, I had filed a story about these two Afghan brothers. One of them was Abdul Huda, that they had cheated the Department of Defense for $6 billion, and the trial was going on in D.C. about it. Can you give me an update about that?
You said the Afghanistan withdrawal was State Department did good, but there was no ambassador at the time of the withdrawal, right? The second one is that a couple of weeks ago, the Pakistani three-star general was arrested on the charges of corruption. And Pakistani people and journalists always complain that the U.S. has, many of Pakistani former generals has properties here and assets here. So while you're doing this thing on the Russian journalists and their properties, can you put in the Pakistani general's name as well to like at least find out about their properties here in the U.S.?
So
just today, a few hours ago, the leader of the opposition in Pakistan Parliament, Mr. Gohar, another parliamentarian, Marwat, another a few parliamentarians are already arrested. There's reports that they're going to be arrested. I have mentioned to you several times that the democracy in Pakistan is under threat. Do you have anything to say about these arrests?
The rise of Al-Qaeda and their camps, my colleague earlier asked, and the confusion there is in that region. To add further confusion into it, Pakistani army chief 2 days ago urged the Taliban regime in Afghanistan to not help the TTP guys, the terrorists, the Taliban regime in Pakistan, not to help them. On the other hand, we have a deputy prime minister who has been accused for corruption since last 2 decades for dozens of charges. He says that the former ISI chief should have not been in Kabul the day US was doing a withdrawal from Afghanistan. Me being a journalist from Peshawar for 25 years, I am totally confused as to what's going on. What's your US policy? I'm confused about Pakistani policy, and I agree with my colleague here that terrorism in that region is in different international terrorist organizations are increasing in much faster pace than State Department and you both are expecting, or your analysis on it.
Okay, you're asking me what my analysis is of it?
To further to my colleague's question that she's raised, that there are 12 Al-Qaeda camps in Afghanistan operating. I am saying that beside Al-Qaeda, the local terrorist organization, including Taliban, their expansionism, which I've been raising in the State Department, is at very fast scale right now. Pakistan role in the Indo-Pacific strategy of the U.S., as I'm sure you know, that China has invested big billions of dollars there in the seaport, and their weapon is mostly now Chinese as well. Is there any other role of Pakistan from a military point of view you see beside the terrorism operations that you guys conduct? Mr. McCall's report that was released yesterday, and yesterday I asked this question to Vedant as well. My 25 journalism is purely about international in that region. I'm not into Republican and Democrat. That's not my focus. My one thing that I've been raising since last 2 years at State Department, and I want to raise it to you, sir, as well. President Biden took over January 2021. The last ambassador, his name is Bass, he left in January 2021. Charge of the affair took over. Mr. Ross was acting ambassador in Afghanistan. On August 15th, the embassy was officially closed. Why was no diplomatic relations there on ground and U.S. troops were left there by themselves? Is the diplomat life more important, or is it more precious than why the soldiers were left over there?
In Pakistan, for the first time, there is accountability of military generals going on. So there is one general of the intelligence who is arrested for corruption. Pakistani people and journalists are very excited and are hoping that State Department could release the asset details of the Pakistan military generals who have them. Tons of them have properties here. Can you make it official?
And they have started. Pakistan military has just used a new name for the Taliban in Pakistan, something like Fitna Khariji. And that reminded me of Shakespeare quote, which said that, "What's in a name that which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet?" So just to America, their change of name makes a difference. I mean, a terrorist organization.
Okay, but is it in your notice that the same channels to transfer the money for the money laundering that they use to bring it to America, it's the same channels the terrorists use to transfer money to each other as well? And a Pakistani guy just recently has been arrested in Canada for doing a terrorist activity. Today, Pakistan and Afghanistan has another very interesting diplomatic thing going on. I'm sure you're aware about their firing with each other's soldiers. Today, the Afghan diplomat in Pakistan did not stand for the Pakistani national anthem because he said that there was music with the national anthem. Do you have about these jokes going on in diplomacy in that part of the region or no? Balochistan Bar Association president yesterday said that the Chief Justice should not get extension beyond 25 October. Today there was a big lawyers' protest rally outside Supreme Court. This extension in the judiciary, does the U.S. at all look at it with weird or no?
These are ultimate.
Okay, there's this one extremely popular scholar named Dr. Zakir Naik who has been literally kicked out since Prime Minister Modi took over in India. He's visiting Pakistan right now, and he has floated this idea while looking at this whole Middle East situation that the Muslim countries should also have something on the lines of NATO. Would the U.S. support an idea like this where at least the Muslim countries, whether it's one Muslim country like Iran is doing something about it? But KP, the province which I belong to and have the newspaper since 40 years, its chief minister in a statement yesterday said to the federal government of Shehbaz Sharif, after their protest was interrupted and stuff, that if next time you shoot us with one bullet, we're going to shoot you with 10 bullets. Does these kind of statements worry the U.S. at all about the situation in Pakistan? In Pakistan, this donut shop has become very popular by the name of Krusty's because its employee had called the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pakistan that shame on you. My question is, do you hear these things? I mean, spokesperson, you see globally, do you see countries where the Chief Justices are called shame on you? At the age of 15, I met Prime Minister Bhutto here in California for the first time. My family relationship have been with People's Party a lot, but the way Imran Khan and his whole party has been treated since last 2 years, it's been very horrible. And it's only for democracy and human rights, that issue that I've been raised with you. Now his two sisters are even arrested, who have nothing to do with politics. Anything louder you can speak about just the situation overall in Pakistan?
Has the U.S. military has had any discussion with Pakistan in case things flare up between Israel and Iran?
Matt, but a lot of was said about 1701, United Nations resolution about Lebanon. On April 21st, 1948, there was a resolution as well, which was called Resolution number 47 about Kashmir, the Indian-held Kashmir, where Modi a few years ago changed the laws. Anyway, just recently elections were held and his opposition won. How do you see this? Is the plebiscite resolution is going to be implemented ever or no?
Just right now, I'm coming from the State Department. My colleague Rita had asked Matt this question that 23 years ago, the U.S. went to Afghanistan because of Al-Qaeda. And today there are reports that Al-Qaeda is again growing in that region. I have raised this question. I've been raising this question for a year now. Pakistan and the U.S., Afghanistan and the U.S., Afghanistan and Pakistan foreign offices are now even having tussle with each other. In the midst of all this, is the Pentagon taking this at all serious that Al-Qaeda is growing to a strength where over the horizons operations might not be enough to tackle this challenge? Indian senior journalists claim that there are about 15,000 Indian contractors in Israel right now. Do you think having more of these contractors would have decreased the number of children and innocent people killed in Gaza if this approach of ground troops was decided in the early days?
Okay, a couple of days ago, there was a grand jirga in my hometown, Peshawar, by this political party that just recently got banned as well. It's called Pashto Tahaffuz movement. Basically, started from the tribal areas where I belong. Zalmay Khalilzad tweeted about it as well. Thousands of people gathered. I mean, hundreds of thousands. One of the demands that they made was that both the Pakistan military and the TTP should leave the former tribal areas, which are now part of the Peshawar, where Imran Khan government is. So they have given them 2 months to either leave the area, to both of them. Your thoughts on this scenario? George Galloway, former parliamentarian in UK, and Jemima Goldsmith have said that these might be the last few days to save Imran Khan's life, because since last almost 10 days, nobody has met him. Just today, they allowed, according to one political leader, they allowed him. Are you aware of these reports that there are threats to his life and health? An Oxford graduate running the biggest charity cancer hospital, running one of the biggest charity university in the country. For last 1 month, his treatment has been horrible. His 2 sisters are arrested. His wife is arrested. His nephew is arrested.
Is there a question, Jalil?
Are there any human rights that your ambassador tells you that if on such level human rights are violated, do you know what is happening on like normal guys level?
Jalil.
In Pakistan, one of our journalists known, Hamid Mir, is like Anderson Cooper in Pakistan. He had reported many years ago that a big news media owner and a journalist, writer himself had paid this much amount. I think in those years it was like $4 or $5 million to buy these member of parliaments, like horse trading was done. That gentleman was my father, by the way, that he was writing about. During this weekend, a similar incident happened, but this time the congressman, the female even congressman, whose video I had shared with your colleague, their kids were kidnapped. Even their handicapped kids were kidnapped. While they were standing in the Senate, they were shivering.
I mean,
Is this the democracy that you are? Is this the democracy that you want to see in Pakistan? Today, this one senator resigned from Pakistan Senate. He was on dialysis, and he said that while he was picked up by the powerful, usually by the powerful, they mean the establishment, the military of Pakistan. He said while he was picked up, he was given dialysis even twice during that 5-6 days time. Do you have anything to say? Are you even aware about it?
I'm not.
I have honored veteran James Bond Stockdale here, my teacher for ethics. I want to honor another veteran, Mr. Anderson from the Iraq War, who was my Spanish teacher. So he had said, and this question is regarding you and your allies who fight against terrorism, I mean Pakistan. So Mr. Anderson had taught me that dígame a quiénes es tu amigos y yo dijaré quién es usted. That tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. Yesterday we had second anniversary of a journalist who was killed in Pakistan 2 years ago. 10 years ago, an ISI official went to the judge, who is a high court judge now, to rule against me. Fingers are pointed at your allies. How does it affect you and how do you feel about it?
Your donut answer was very popular in Pakistan. Millions of people viewed that answer of yours about the donuts. So 2 days ago, in front of the Supreme Court, there was a monument constructed where the former Chief Justice, regarding whom the donut question was dedicated to, was built. Now, that monument is being called as a graveyard by several leading journalists in Pakistan. Some of them are calling the monuments as human rights graveyards, some of them journalist graveyards, some of them parliamentarian graveyards. And they are wondering if you would be willing to create something in honor of Justice Ruth, who was a Supreme Court judge of the U.S., in whose memory buildings are painted. Would you dedicate a donut monument in that graveyard just to raise?
I think.
So yesterday in Michigan State, a poll was conducted where 60% of the Muslims are voting for President Trump. For last many decades, U.S. elections, Muslim population have mostly voted for Democrats. Would you say it is because of the poor policy, especially with regard to Gaza? The last one is about this Baloch, very popular activist in Pakistan, and the Baloch senators who were kidnapped and coerced into voting. So Ms. Mahrang Baloch has said that the way Mr. Akhtar Mengal and the BNP senators were treated and coerced into voting for the 26th constitutional amendment and are now being framed into fake police cases clearly shows that there is no space for parliamentary politics of peaceful activism in Pakistan. Just if you could say anything about that.
So, legal process for all individuals.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 25 years ago, my senior colleague Matt Lee had joined this press briefing room. Mr. Richard Boucher was the press gentleman like you are. I'm here.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Richard Boucher was no. Jamie Rubin was the spokesman.
Just a few months later, Mr. Richard Boucher came, and he is my friend till this day.
Do you want me to step off stage for a minute and you guys can handle this?
I don't know why my name has to come up here.
Before election, so let's make it a little more serious. So, Mr. Matt, last 2 years, in 25 years, I've skipped journalism only for a year and a half when I was in Virginia Hospital Center. So when I came, then I started, and you have been here since most of the time here. Last week, my 6-year-old son also came here to ask you a question. Unfortunately, he was taken out. Other journalist children have been allowed. last week my question is, last week you had the audacity to say that your administration had nothing to do with the removal of Imran Khan, while you had told my friend Matt, the word close-ish about the removal of Imran Khan.
No,
Remember
that is not an accurate representation of
you
what I
had said
said.
that we had told Imran Khan that your visit to Russia was a disliking, and we had
I should leave it alone, but you're not right.
Okay. Second one. Yesterday, a Supreme Court attorney got recovered after a month of abduction in Pakistan. After a month, Supreme Court attorney. Is that not human rights violations that I personally have been mentioning to you since last 2 years, and you have not once even said to me that Jalil,
I'm not aware of that report, so I can't comment on it.
but human rights violations I have not brought into your notice on multiple parliamentarians abducted, senators abducted, lawyers abducted.
Do you have a question, Jalil?
You do not acknowledge that in 2 years you have completely ignored these things. And today is the last day before your election. I want to show this picture to you, how I feel as a journalist.
All right.
In 2 years, the way you have treated me and Kareem.
Go ahead, Bahan. If you have a question. You know what, this is, we have, Jalil, this is question time, not argument time in the briefing room. Go ahead, behind you. Go ahead. And I appreciate journalists that show up with questions, not extended arguments. Go ahead.
I want to tell you the last day of the election.
You can go ahead with your question.
Journalism, please.
Go ahead with your question. I'm going to respect journalism by calling on a journalist in the room.
Yes, I will shut up.
Go ahead.